Good morning, everybody. Jim Hudson, Secretary DFA, and really just wanted to take a moment to remind all Arkansans as we get close to the travel season here in the natural state that May 7th is fast approaching. Now, what's May 7th? Why is that significant? May 7th is the date that the TSA requirement for real IDs goes into effect nationwide. What that means is if you want to fly on a commercial airplane, you've got to have a real ID or an acceptable alternative form of identification like a U.S. passport. A regular Arkansas driver's license will not be sufficient to get you through the security line at TSA. So you want to make sure that if you have travel plans coming up soon, that you have a real ID. And also I want to point out as well, this is something I think that maybe is not as well known. In addition to the requirement for a real ID in order to travel, you will need to have a real ID in order to be able to access certain federal facilities, like a courthouse, like a military installation, and also to access a nuclear power plant if you, say, are a contractor and you're working up at Nuclear One. These are all requirements that are being imposed under federal law. Your Arkansas regular driver's license is still acceptable for all purposes in the state of Arkansas for Arkansas law, but for the federal requirement, you have to have a real ID. Now, I don't want Arkansans to be inconvenienced. I want you to know that the state of Arkansas and Department of Finance Administration is ready and is ready to serve all Arkansans to get their real IDs. Since January 1st, we have issued about 140,000 real IDs here in Arkansas, and we have more and more people every single day who are coming in to be able to request to get one. The DFA team here is absolutely amazing. So I'd remind all Arkansans, all 134 revenue offices in the state have the capability to issue a real ID, and we issue those the same day. You come in, you request one, you have your documentation, you will walk out the door with your real ID that day. We have a website, a webpage dedicated to providing more information about this. I would encourage you to go to ar.gov/real ID. Again, ar.gov/real ID. There's a nice little quiz on there where you can put in the documents you have in your possession, and it will tell you whether or not those documents are sufficient to be able to have a real ID issued. So I also want to let you know, too, that with the demand that we see coming in the next couple of weeks, I've asked Commissioner Collins to also provide some additional capacity by opening 5 of our revenue offices this coming Saturday in select cities around the state. Fayetteville, Little Rock, Jonesboro, Texarkana, and Monticello will be open all day this Saturday, 8 o'clock to 4:30, I believe, in order to be able to serve customers. We will only be issuing real IDs in those offices on this Saturday so we can focus on serving those customers who have the greatest need for it. Particularly if you plan to travel in the coming future, I would encourage you, go ahead, don't live with the stress, get your real ID taken care of as soon as possible. If you're traveling later in the summer, just make sure you come by our office and get that done before you hop on an airplane. I don't want anybody going to the airport and getting turned away and having their travel plans frustrated because you don't have a real ID and you need to be able to have one in order to travel. So come, visit us as soon as possible. We'll be happy to issue that to you. With that, I'm going to invite Commissioner Collins to come up and give you some more information about the process for getting a real ID issued.
Thank you very much, Jim, and good morning, everybody. The first thing I want to do is just provide a little bit of context for real IDs. This is really a program that emerged in the federal government following the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And the whole idea is to help improve security so that we can make sure that flying is safer for all Americans. So that's the reason that we're going through this process of transitioning in every state in the country from what I'll call a traditional driver's license process to a more secure form of identification, hence the real ID. Now, when you're pursuing a real ID, there are really 4 things that you need to provide. One of them is a proof of legal presence. A second is a proof of identity. A third is a social security number. and the fourth is the proof of residency. There are different documents that can be used for these different four methods of confirming you are who you are. And as Jim said, we have a website and other methods for getting the specific details. The one thing I really want to highlight for Arkansans is the Social Security number component. And the reason is you will need to have your physical Social Security card to get an Arkansas Real ID. So people may have misplaced their card or something like that, and in order to get a replacement card, you'll need to deal with the Social Security Administration, and that may take a little bit of time. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that. Most of the other types of documents, there are a couple different options. The last thing I want to share with people is how focused DFA has been on making the Real ID process as smooth, convenient, and accessible to Arkansans as it can possibly be made. As Jim mentioned, our Real IDs are available in every DMV, as most people call them, or SRO as we call them, in the state. Very few other states will provide an on-the-spot Real ID. In most states, you must actually go through a process where you receive one in the mail weeks later. So some people may be reading in the headlines about some of the problems that are happening in other states. Keep in mind, many of those states have a mailing requirement which can add a couple weeks to the process. Not so in Arkansas. 5 years ago, we began offering these not just in our biggest DMVs, but in all DMVs. And that's a pretty involved process because the Department of Homeland Security and TSA have stringent requirements for our workers and for our spaces to make sure that we can provide this level of security. But rest assured, here in Arkansas, we're working closely with the feds to make sure that we're meeting all of those security goals while we provide Real IDs in the most convenient way possible. And with that, Jim and I would be happy to answer questions.
Just real quickly, too, I want to do a real quick plug for our reservation system that we announced here, about a month or so ago. First of all, the rollout's just gone very, very smoothly, and you can use that reservation system for all the services that we provide in the state revenue offices, not just what we're talking about today in terms of Real ID, but especially for Real ID. If you would like to go to one of our offices that are offering that service on Saturday, the 5 that I mentioned, go online to our website and you can schedule the time of your arrival. Now, if you don't make an appointment, we will still serve you on Saturday. But if you can't do it this Saturday, you're going to do it sometime next week or the week after, I would encourage you, go to the website, schedule a time slot that is convenient for you, show up with all the documentation. We will serve you quickly, and you'll be able to get about your life really fast as well. So with that, as Charlie said, we'll take any questions.
What is it about the Real IDs that makes them more secure than a traditional ID? Is it just the requirements that Collins listed out, or?
Yeah, I would say that, to Charlie's point, the fact that you've got to provide all 4 of those documents, and they all have to sync up. Right? It's easy to fraudulently maybe produce one document, but to have all 4 of those fraudulently produced, particularly when you're talking about a passport, a U.S. passport, or a notarized original sorted birth certificate, those are really key documents. So all those 4 together, also proving residency, proving that you have lawful presence in the United States, working together, they make them more secure.
I would add that the second element are security features themselves that are built into the physical document that make it extra hard to counterfeit.
Yeah, I understand that if you get a Real ID, it doesn't necessarily renew your driver's license, so if it was set to expire, it's still going to expire on the same date?
Not necessarily. You can choose, if you would like, to go ahead and pay an additional fee of $40, I believe, and that will reset your expiration date when you come in for your Real ID. Or if all you want to do is keep your existing expiration date and convert that regular ID to a Real ID, just $10 for that. So you have some choice there.
Do you have any? Go ahead.
What should someone do if they go to the airport and after May 7th and they are turned away?
I would refer you to TSA on that. They're the ones who control access to aircraft at the security checkpoint. I think they're being very proactive in communicating what their enforcement posture is going to be. But again, I would say to Arkansans who have travel plans, travel is already stressful enough. I think there's plenty of time to get this taken care of, so why worry about whether or not you have the right documentation? Just go ahead and take care of it now.
Do you have any updates on digital IDs?
The mobile driver's license, it is available. We've got about 20,000 Arkansans that have taken advantage of it so far, but you can feel free to go ahead and pursue that, and it too will act as a real ID if you've obtained your real ID. So it is compatible and compliant with the real ID process.
I think there may be some Arkansans who are not sure, do they have a real ID? So look at your driver's license. If you see that gold star in the upper corner on the right, I guess, of the driver's license, then if that star is there, that means that you have already gotten a real ID and you're good to go. And as Charlie indicated, if you get it subsequently, and then you also have the mobile ID, your mobile ID digital record will update automatically.
Is there any assistance available to people who feel like that $40 is a barrier getting it?
It's a statutory fee, so it's what we're required to charge.
And as Jim said, if you only have $10, you can go in and get a duplicate of your existing license, and that will work just as well with TSA.
Anything else?
I guess I'll throw in one more. Just to confirm, so you can't show up at the TSA anymore with just passports, right?
No, you can use your passport. That is an acceptable alternative form of identification for TSA. They've communicated that, I think, in their public-facing platforms. I think there is a question as to what will be accepted at federal facilities because they're controlled by other departments in the federal government. So they may have different requirements for alternative IDs. You would need to call, for the U.S. courts, for example, and ask them what they're going to accept for alternative forms of identification, Department of Defense, Social Security Administration, IRS. And that's kind of really what I want to stress. Even if you don't plan to travel, there's probably a fair number of Arkansans who don't really want to travel by air for various reasons. But you have a need to be, at a federal office building on a regular basis. You need to have a real ID, or you need to have a plan for presenting the right documentation as you go through security checkpoint at that federal facility. And again, I want to stress, as far as the state of Arkansas is concerned, a regular ID meets all of our requirements. This is what's being required under federal law. We're just here to serve Arkansans and get them what they need in order to comply with that.
Depending on the numbers that come out this Saturday, would you guys be open to having another Saturday for offices to be open?
Yeah, we'll evaluate how effective it was on Saturday. I mean, obviously, our staff have to take times away from their families to be there. We think it's important to do that this Saturday. If there's still a need, we'll reassess. I think that there's plenty of time, even during the week, to meet most of the immediate needs. So I'd encourage folks, if you can't be there Saturday, come check us out Monday through Friday, make an appointment, and we'll make sure we get you served.
On May 7th, will y'all have any extended hours for people to come with their real ID?
Not currently planning to do that. I think that, again, we have a lot of capacity between here and there, so I just encourage folks to get it taken care of today if you possibly can.
And all of these questions about different ways of making adjustments, one of the things that we're very cognizant of at DFNA is how we spend taxpayers' money. And so when we make disruptions to the way we're designing these things, sometimes that can cost more money than using our ongoing methods. So that's why we love to be as efficient and effective as possible during the normal situation so that we don't incur extra taxpayer costs.
Thank y'all for coming out today. We appreciate you helping us get the word out. And we'll be available for any questions that you may have after the press conference.